Hey everybody, welcome back to the Retro Gamers Podcast. That's an inside joke. Episode 142, and as you can see, we are joined by a very special guest. First of all, Larry here.
And Anthony here.
And Rich.
Back. Yes, Rich is back. I think Rich may be, correct me if I'm wrong, probably most times as a guest on the show, almost.
He might be at this point.
Getting
there? He was one of our first way back. Way back at Barcade.
Yep.
Yeah, that was love that place. I can't believe how successful that place has become now.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, and Rich, there's one near me now, 10 minutes away.
Really?
Yep.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're opening one in Detroit.
Why?
Interesting location.
Yeah, I know. It really is it's a ground zero of destroying this.
No.
So,
I was just saying, no offense to anybody in Detroit. We love all of our listeners.
No, but it's a rough neighborhood. But we'll see what happens. I think Detroit. I could be completely wrong on that. I'm making stuff up. I'm just lying as we go.
I know. Well, you grew up on the mean streets of Garrettson Beach. So.
I did. What, are you kidding me? I think they just found someone dead over there. Anyway, we're starting this episode off peachy. So we got a lot to talk about. We actually got a packed episode here. So we got Rich on to talk about some stuff here. I know originally I wasn't gonna be here, so sorry, Rich, kind of stepping on your toes on this one.
You know, Larry, we're gonna have to have words. You're cheating on me.
It's my podcast.
Hey, you know what? As you continue to be absent from time to time, people are just going to slide in, man.
I'm busy. I can't help it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm busy too. Here I am.
I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. I'm very tired right now.
Excuses.
So, but let's get...
And I'm currently drugged, and I'm completely conscious and recording.
That's how we like to do this. Rich, you have any abnormalities or anything you want to talk about?
Oh, I was diagnosed with hypertension this week.
There we go.
Nice.
Congratulations.
And my blood pressure was off the charts, and kind of the doctor was like, yeah, we're going to give you 2 months, and then if that doesn't get better, you're going to have to go on medication. I'm like, awesome.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you guys are all broken, taking drugs and stuff. I don't understand this. I am in perfect health.
Yeah, okay. Anthony may pass out here in the next 15 to 20 minutes. We'll find out.
Yes, I know. And we're taking bets on that, by the way.
Am I starting the timer?
Yeah.
Just in case. And then all of a sudden one of the cats will just take over. We'll just sit there staring at the camera.
Well, Snow always likes to jump up and interrupt, so wouldn't surprise me.
No, not Snow. The other one, Link, is always joining you.
Oh, Link, yeah. Well, Link likes to stab me when I'm recording.
Link's the attention whore.
Snow's more vocal, though, apparently.
Yes. But anyway, Larry, you were saying we got a packed show and lots to talk about, so
we
let's get talking.
So let's talk. First, we're going to have some fun here before we get into the news, before we get into business. Now, it is well known and certainly not a hidden fact that of all these games behind me, I think I've beaten that one. Like, that's the only one, probably. So I tend to just.
I
I don't even know which one I pointed to. I think I pointed to a homebrew. So,
Nice.
But in the past, the discussions, especially that the two of you have had on the podcast, and even just hanging out when we talked, the art of beating a game nowadays may be lost, I think, especially with these old ones. But I know you guys got a good handful of games that you've completed in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole point to me in playing a game is to beat it. I mean, obviously there are games that are just on an infinite loop, so to speak, but for the most part, if it's a game that has an ending, I want to see it, and I'm going to play it until I get to see it.
There's been a number of games that basically it's like, you sit there and it's like you hate it, but at the same time, it's like, man, I got to beat this game. It's like I have to see this ending.
Yeah.
Not retro related, but I just finished Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Oh.
And that was one I kind of related it back. I miss the old Tomb Raiders. I know that they were wonky. I know the controls were terrible, but there was a certain funness to them. and I found that the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, maybe about halfway through, I'm like, why the hell am I still playing this game? But I needed to see the end.
Yeah, I guess that's also the completionist in a lot of people. Me, not so much. But I have seen, I guess now in today's day and age of live streaming and, with the love of retro back, I think people, and I'm not talking speed runs or anything. I'm actually not a fan of speed runs. I don't know why. But just the fact of let's try and complete games. And I know, our friends over at Game On, they've been doing that a lot. Like they've been trying to, like, every week beat a new game, a new Nintendo game, but like without using the internet and only using like Nintendo Powers or strategy guides. Of course, they have access to all that. Yeah. And they've gotten through a lot. I remember the one they had trouble with, but I was there when they... No, that game can go to hell. No, it was Maniac Mansion.
That's another
Oh
one.
yeah,
Was just
a challenge.
I remember sitting there watching. I'm like, why are we still playing this? And they're like, because we have to beat it. I'm like, no, you don't. But they did.
Yes, you do.
So let me ask you guys. First and foremost, the first question that's usually on all our minds. What was that first game that you beat, and do you remember that day? Do you remember that moment? I think we should start with our guest, Rich.
Oh, I'll go first. Okay. So, before we were talking, my first system was Coleco, but I never beat anything on the Coleco. It wasn't until I got the Nintendo that I wound up beating it. But I remember actually beating Contra because my Nintendo was, at that time, it was in my parents' bedroom. So I remember sitting in my mother, on their bed and playing it, and I remember having to use the 30 lives code, and I basically had to go through almost all 90 lives just to beat the damn game.
Wow.
And I remember thinking that was an accomplishment.
On a quick side note, I find it weird that the video game system was in the parents' room. You would think back then it would be either in the kids' room or the living room. I just find that very interesting.
I think that was one of those, back then, you know how it was. It's like you had the one main TV in the living room.
Okay.
And then, the TV that we had was like a
I gotcha.
TV that was in their bedroom.
I gotcha. Okay.
Basically, my parents were like, yeah, you want to play that? Go upstairs.
I just figured...
Not taking that TV.
I thought maybe just your parents were really cool. Like, no, we want to play the games. We don't know why we bought this and buy this for the kids.
I'll tell you, if my father could have figured out a way to pirate those, he would have.
Him and my grandfather both. All right, so Contra, 30 lives. Excellent.
Yep.
Ant, how about you?
I'm going to go back a little bit earlier than the Nintendo and go to the Atari 2600.
Okay.
My cat wants to join us.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know, I'm old. But you know what? You're older than me, sir.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Yeah, true story.
I'm knocking on the door, so...
Yeah, you're right there, Larry. So, Atari 2600, got to go back to the original game that has now been highly publicized thanks to Ready Player One, and I'm talking about Adventure.
Ooh.
Now, Adventure, when you get dropped into that game, you have no idea what the hell is going on, and you don't know what things mean and stuff like that, because it was all really, obviously, super basic. I mean, the game was probably all of 4 kilobytes. Not even megabytes. Kilobytes.
What is it like? Like we have like more memory in our fingernail, I think, than what that is.
Basically, until we cut them off. So Adventure, so I remember like getting Adventure. Now I don't ever remember uncovering the Easter egg that was in Adventure when I was a kid because I didn't know about it or whatever. Right. But I have to say, completing Adventure was a huge accomplishment because again, as like a 7-year-old, maybe I had no idea what anything meant. I just figured out what I had to do, and then I beat it. And when I beat it, it was a great accomplishment.
Okay, there you go. Me personally, I think I mentioned it before, and me and Rich are in the exact same boat. Contra was the first game that I beat. 30 lives. I mean, there wasn't no way I was beating that game regularly back then.
Nope.
And I remember when I remember like it was yesterday. It happened. I got there, got to the final boss, that heart, and you just, finally did it, beat the game, I was like, oh my, jumping for joy. My heart's literally racing. And having a heart thingamajig. My mom's like, all right, calm down, let's relax.
You don't understand.
Yeah, no, basically, yeah. I was like, I beat the game. She's like, all right, well, we still want you to live. So, and then as it was, sometimes if it was a special thing, we got to, kind of get like a pizza to celebrate, but like a square pie or something. It was very weird in my house. So I remember that big time. Now let me ask you this, Rich, though. Since then, have you beaten it without the code?
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure.
It was funny, a couple of years ago, my buddies and I, we would sit there and argue because they would be like, you can't do this. And I was like, totally can. And they didn't believe me. So I'm like, all right, tell you what, we're going to Facebook Live this shit.
Nice.
So I gave them my phone. I said, put me on Facebook Live, and I plowed through the entire game. 3 lives.
Awesome.
Nice.
I think I did the same thing on... Did I do it on Facebook Live? I don't remember. But I beat it recently, like for the first time without the code recently.
Really?
Yeah, it's for a while I did have trouble with it, and then just then I just didn't have the game anymore and all that stuff. And it wasn't until recently when I finally got my hands back on it, I finally was able to get through it. And that was a I feel like that was a better accomplishment ultimately than doing it back then. So now
it's funny, real quick. The reason I was able to eventually, I had to learn how to do that, not because of the fact of, oh, hey, I want to be able to do this, but basically I had my friend Jess and her friend Christina, basically, like, we would sit there and we would play the game. They would die off constantly all the time, and then they kept stealing my lives.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, I had to teach myself how to friggin' beat that game with as few lives as possible, because this way they could take all of my lives, and we would be able to beat the game.
Yeah, I haven't done a 2-player. I gotta find someone to be able to do that 2-player. That'd be interesting. Huh. So let me ask you this then, guys. So, all right, fine. Those are the first games that we've beaten. Now, how many games, or no, not games, maybe how many platforms can you name that you've beaten at least one game on? Because it's, we always talk Nintendo, but I don't think I've ever beaten a Genesis game. That's a lie. 1.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I think it'd be 1.
Basically, every system that I've owned, I've always beaten games on them.
Okay.
Especially, I think the worst for me had to be the PS2. I think I wound up buying a ton of games, and I just never beat them. Mm-hmm. But there were still games that I beat on the PS2.
Okay.
Just same as Rich. Every system I've had, I've beaten at least one game on. I'm trying to think if there are any exceptions. Maybe if you count handheld. Like, I did own a Game Gear at some point, and I never played through a game on that, but I also didn't own it for very long.
Okay.
So,
I hear you on that.
But for the most part, yeah, every single game I have, every single console I've had, I've beaten someone.
All right. Like, for me, I think the only 2 games I've probably beaten on Genesis were Shining Force and Shining Force 2. Which is kind of funny because I'm actually not a huge fan of RPGs, except for those. So, but then beyond that, I can't think. For me, I think the only other one, Game Boy, and Game Boy I've done, like Super Mario Land, stuff like that. But yeah, really not new stuff. I honestly, again, because I'm so... I think I joked about this, but I don't think it's a joke. I think it's true. Before we started recording, like, when it comes to game, it truly is an ADD situation. And it's probably because, like, when I was younger, I'd get a game, play it, but then as soon as I got a new game, I just started focusing on that one, and that's what would happen.
You were like that meme of the guy walking with his girlfriend, turning around, checking out the other girl.
Absolutely.
It's like old games, and it's like, but there's this new game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would always focus on the new one and then just forget the old one. But now, and me and Anthony mentioned this before, and Rich, I'm curious if this is maybe happening to you. Like, as we get older, I know for me and Anthony it's almost the opposite. As we get older, that's starting to change where, like I'm starting to now finally beat older games. And I remember for a while Ann had a little trouble defeating, again, older games. We're going back old school.
Yeah.
I recently, meaning probably about like 7-8 years ago, I had never beaten the original Metal Gear. And I sat down and I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to do this. And I plowed through it. I was like, that was one that I really wanted to be able to say, like, finally did it.
Is that the same for you, Rich, as well, when you beat Blaster Master, or did you beat Blaster Master back in the day? Because I remember you beat that recently.
I beat it back in the day.
Okay.
Back in the day, I managed to get all the way up to the 8th level, which is the last level. And honestly, I don't know how the hell I ever got that far. Because playing it now, I was like, I've got the internet, it's telling me where to go, and I'm like, okay, how the hell did I figure out, like, where the friggin' bosses were, how to get to the next levels? Mm-hmm. It was like, holy cow, that never would, I must have been obsessed or just an idiot savant, I don't know what, but hell's, yeah. That was one that, I went back and I beat now. So I only beat that, Anthony, like a couple of months ago?
Yeah, a couple months ago. It was actually after you guest hosted on our show. Yeah. The last time Larry was unavailable, and I had brought up Blaster Master, and you said, "Yeah, you never beat it," and I kind of egged you on to do it. So thank you for following my orders.
Hey, listen, somebody's got it, right?
Yes. Actually, that's not true at all. Nobody usually listens to me.
Aw, boo. Not even the cats.
No, definitely not the cats. They're in charge.
So now, also, Rich, let me ask you: do you still have a lot of the old systems, or do you still have your old stuff, or?
See, that's a question that hurts a little bit.
Okay, no, I was there as well.
So back around 2008, I really wanted to get the PS3. And my wife was like, okay, you have all these comics sitting around the house. You have all these video games sitting around the house.
Oh, no.
She's like, and now you're going to get another game system in here. She's like, something's got to go. So I was like...
Nice knowing you, ma'am. No, I'm kidding. That would have been me.
Damn it. Choices, man.
I'm kidding.
So then at that point, I had my NES, and I had 49 games for it. And by the way, that was like Super Mario Brothers 1 through 3,
mm-hmm.
Mega Man's 1 through 3, Contra, Super C, Metal Gear.
All the good ones.
Ninja Gaiden's 1 and 2. Yeah, all the big ones. I sold everything on eBay for $150.
Oof.
Oh, God.
Well, back then, there really wasn't, I don't think, much of a demand for... But still, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, it does. It does.
And I only recently... I sold my SNES because it was just sitting downstairs in the basement,
mm-hmm.
and it was literally doing nothing.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what?
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's going to happen, no problem. The reason why I'm asking is, do you now starting to get a drive to maybe want to go back and complete these games? Because,
yeah.
And if so, how? So at that point, but that's, I guess, another story for another time.
So one of my other buddies, who's Jack, we hang out really quite a bit, and he's a huge retro enthusiast. He's basically trying to get every single system because he wants to be able to play every single system on its native console. But he even takes it a step further, where when he gets them, he basically takes them apart and basically just fixes them up, gets rid of cleans them out, gets rid of all the old circuit, the bad circuitry, puts new circuitry back into it. I'm like, that's all you, dude.
Yeah.
I was like,
I have a Sega CD he can look at.
Yeah, he'll fix it too.
No need to at this point, right?
Dreamcast right now. He's trying to fix my Dreamcast.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Sorry, we're all talking over each other.
We are. And yes, you were saying.
No, never mind.
Alrighty. Ant's getting a Poly Mega, and that's going to take care of the Sega CD portion of it. That's why.
Yes.
So, but, alright, so, Ant, let me now go to you. Now that you have the Retro Freak, and you do have some of the old systems still, do you have, a list, maybe, that you're trying to procure? No? Is that the word?
You mean a list of games I'm trying to procure? Or a list of games I'm trying to beat?
To beat, yeah.
I I don't think I necessarily have a specific list. Ideally, I would like to beat all the games I have in my current library, which is probably never going to happen. And that's perfectly fine because I'm well clear of 500 games.
Okay.
And I honestly don't know how many I have beaten. I would have to sit down and like look at them all. So no, I don't have a list per se, but I do have some in mind that I want to hit up next.
That's okay. So what do you got next? What's like your holy grail of a game to beat?
Ooh. Well, oh, you know what? This is probably an easy answer. Holy Grail one will be Shining Force 3, which I do own.
Yes, me too.
Some idiot might have convinced you to get that. I don't know who.
Yeah, so, I was in a store and there was a devil on my shoulder with a Brooklyn accent and curly hair.
Never listen to those devils, man. I'm telling you.
I know. Literally standing right next to you and saying it in your ear.
Well, yeah, two people do that because I also, when you texted me, I'm like, go for it as well. He's talking about Rich, everybody.
I know, and you know what? I couldn't have been happier getting my hands on a copy of that, and to me, it was a good price for it too. So definitely was happy with that. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I think what I'm going to do is it's a Sega Saturn game.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, so it's Sega Saturn, and I'm going to wait for the Polymega to come out in August, since I've already pre-ordered it, and that'll be the first game I pop in there to play through.
Yeah, right. Me too. I think I'm going to do the same thing.
I got a question. Hold on, I got a question here. So, and real quick, lightning type round here. Don't necessarily want to go into a discussion too much about it, maybe, but SNES, the game that you were like, I wanted because we were talking about going all the way up to the Dreamcast, right?
Yeah.
So let's real quick, most memorable game that you beat on the SNES.
All right. Well, let's go back one generation since you guys touched on the NES, and I'm going to go to the NES.
Okay.
And obvious answer is Legend of Zelda, no question. To the SNES. Do you want to go? Do you want to just alternate and go, or do you want to do like a lightning round of all systems?
Lightning round.
Lightning round. All right. So, like I said, Atari 2600 was Adventure. NES was Legend of Zelda. SNES, I had a little trouble trying to I had a debate with myself over which one, and actually Chrono Trigger won out over A Link to the Past. Just that game, I've talked about how phenomenal it is multiple times. If you haven't played it, it's worth playing. And not only that, I only recently beat it like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
So, oh yeah. No, I didn't have it when I was a kid. So, but by far and away, one of the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had. Sega Genesis, we brought this one up earlier. Shining Force, still one of my favorite RPG mechanics ever, and great story overall. So, and most importantly, available on so many platforms.
Yeah.
So if you haven't played it, you can. Sony PlayStation. Originally, I wrote down Tomb Raider and then crossed it out because Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Amazing, start to finish.
Yep.
Both ways in the game, and the soundtrack, everything about that game was just memorable, like 100% memorable.
Put it into a CD player, you got a really cool message.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
You did.
I skipped over Sega CD on purpose because I did own a Sega CD, but to be honest with you, all the games on there weren't particularly memorable, even beating them. Shining Force CD though, which I do not have, I plan on getting. Nintendo 64, gotta go with Mario 64. I mean, it was the real first foray into like a 3D action platformer. And just marveling at what you can do in that game with Mario after having been with him for 10 plus years of just 2D adventures. Definitely set the standard for the industry and also made for a really gratifying experience, especially when you beat it.
Okay.
And then last but not least, Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure. Because to me,
Yes.
Sonic Adventure felt like their Mario 64, just obviously with better graphics, and being able to run through that game, and not only with Sonic but with all of his friends running through that game through story mode, it was so involved and very, very just a very fantastic journey. So those are mine.
Nice.
All right.
Yep, Larry.
My list is very short. I can tell you right now. Nintendo, Contra. That was the first one I beat, and still, to me, the most fun and the best one. Super NES, I would actually have to say Link to the Past, just the fact that I lasted that long to play the game. On Game Boy, I would say Super Mario Land because that was the first one, but that was replaced recently, like within the last year and a half, when I beat Mega Man on Game Boy. So, which is probably one of the first. I never really. I don't think I've beaten any of the Mega Man games truly. So that one on Game Boy, that was cool to beat. N64. As much as I want to say Super Mario, I'm gonna say Ocarina of Time. Because that, again, just a beautiful game. The mechanics for the Zelda game, that open world atmosphere. And I think it was, I'm trying to remember if it was Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time that actually, when the game ended, it tracked how many times like you died and restarted and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
right.
one of them was 99 times. I forgot which one, but one of them was 99, yeah. And then Dreamcast, I'm going to go with Anthony, Sonic Adventure. Phenomenal on Dreamcast.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even think the GameCube version did it justice in a weird way. So yeah, those are basically the top ones for me. Of course, Genesis, I've already mentioned it. Genesis, Shining Force. So
Right. And Rich, over to you.
So I already said, starting with the Nintendo. So NES Contra, talked about it. SNES, I think it's no secret which one mine is. Super Metroid. I mean, I'll never forget getting all the way up to Torian and trying to basically battle my way through, and all of a sudden you get that massive Metroid just landing on her, and you just feel like, what the hell? And then you get to Mother Brain, and Mother Brain's this huge thing. And my personal favorite was, you get the time limit to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm running, I'm trying to get through. I've got seconds to get there, and all of a sudden she goes into the hyper run, the hyper boost. So I jump, and I'm like, yes, I got it. I made it to the ship. And then she just keeps going past the ship. And I'm like, shit. And then, the planet explodes. And I'm like,
oops.
Oh, well. I'm not doing that again right now.
My bad.
Genesis, I had 2 down here. Streets of Rage, the original one.
Oh, wow.
Because nothing beats when you get to that end at 2 players, and he goes, join me. And will you join me? And one person chooses yes, and the other person chooses no, and then you got to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
amazing. And then the other one half to that was their first Earthworm Jim.
Oh,
wow! Yes,
wow.
Earthworm Jim.
That was a fun game. PS1, I'm actually going with a little bit more of an obscure one. I was like racking my brain on that because there was a number of them. Wild Arms.
Oh wow, good point.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Because that was one, when Final Fantasy VII had come out, I was really kind of like into, like all my friends were into it, and I didn't like it. And I remember going into a software, etc. It was like $10, and I was like, fuck, I'll give it a chance. And that was storyline-wise and just gameplay-wise, it was a lot of fun. Sega Saturn, going with, actually, Anthony, stealing one from you, Tomb Raider.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because when I first played it, I didn't have the PlayStation 1 at that point. I had my Saturn, so I played it first on that. So I was like,
very nice.
Still love that game to this day, even as bad as it is.
It's a fantastic game.
Dreamcast was a little Japanese game called Sword of the Berserk.
Never heard of that one.
Another one.
I picked it up simply because of the fact that it was this big-ass guy with a huge sword. And I was like, all right, it's cheap, it's inexpensive, it's a hack and slash game, and it was fun. And then I met my wife, and she was into anime, and she basically was like, oh, hey, here's this anime you should watch. It's called Berserk. And I was like, wait a second. I'm like, I know this from somewhere.
This looks familiar.
And it turned out that it's a continuation of the story.
Oh, that's cool.
Did not know, like, I picked that up on a lark years before. And then finally got a chance to play it, and I beat it long after that. But that was a fun one, especially if you like the anime. And then just 2 other ones. Game Boy, Operation C. I love that because of the fact that it's a spiritual...
Yep.
Like, it's probably the closest to Contra and Super C. in terms of all the Contras that have come since.
I can't wait to play that when it comes out again on the Contra Collection. And I haven't beaten it, but I definitely plan on beating that.
It's hard.
Oh,
dude.
yeah. I owned it. I own it. But, yeah, it is terrible. Terribly hard, that is.
Yeah. And then my last one was Game Boy Advance I'm throwing in there.
Okay.
Game Boy Advance was Metroid Fusion, rather.
Yes. That's a good one.
That was like a horror game.
It was.
For Metro games, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I gotta say really quickly, Rich, because you brought it up on the PlayStation, and I had neglected to even think about it for some odd reason. But Final Fantasy VII, I think I would actually have trump Castlevania Symphony of the Night, because I never shut up about Final Fantasy VII.
This is true.
Really?
Yeah. Final Fantasy VII to me was like the epitome of RPG games. I don't think I've ever played one since then that I've even compared it to. I don't know if it was just the timing of it or the overall story elements, all of it. I think that game definitely just rocked from start to finish.
All right, cool.
Nice.
And, to kind of wrap up this segment, let me ask you this, and Rich, when you mention it, that's what reminded me of it. Is there a game that you came ever so close to beating? Just one more moment, but you never beat it, you never have beaten it, and you haven't had a chance to go back and try to beat it again?
Ninja Gaiden.
Okay, the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, how far did you get?
All the way up to the very last boss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was on my last life. And I remember I basically was like, all right, I'll die and I'll continue, and it'll at least continue from 6-4.
Yeah.
Without kind of... And it booted me all the way back to 6-1.
Yep.
It was like, nope.
Oofa.
Wow.
And...
yeah, over to me. I gotta say, the only one that pops in my head like immediately was Final Fantasy VIII for PlayStation. Okay. I had gotten all the way to the 4th disc, and we were on the ship heading into battle the main. Go to the last. I think it was the last area to battle the enemy, the main enemy in the game. And I don't know why. I just stopped playing it. I was at that point where I'm like, you know what? I think I'm kind of done for now. And then I never went back and finished it.
Oh,
it's funny. My wife loved Final Fantasy VIII back in the day. That's the one where you had to like write the runes or write the spells or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah. No, she's talked about it a number of times.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal game. It was. It's just I think what happened was, coming off of the heels of Final Fantasy VII, which was amazing, I felt like the lead character in Final Fantasy VIII, I wasn't as invested in his story as I was with Cloud in Final Fantasy VII. So I had just gotten to a point where I'm like, you know what, I need to take a break from this because I was kind of losing a little bit of interest. So I'm like, I'll take a break and I'll come back, and never did.
Well, just to even run with that, I found, just an interesting thing to point out. You called Final Fantasy VII's lead Cloud, and you didn't say the lead for Final Fantasy VIII.
I didn't, because to be honest with you, I'm trying to remember his name and I can't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Aww.
And that makes all the difference right there.
Yeah.
And with me, it's the one that actually Rich mentioned, Metroid Fusion. Played it on, actually it was the Game Boy Advance. I played it on the 3DS because it was like a downloads that we got. Fell in love with it, and I'm not a big Metroid fan. Never really played the games before, but I'm playing Fusion. I'm getting all the way to the end. I was able to save it, and then that's when the memory card crapped out, erased everything, and I just never had the heart to go back and play it again.
Yeah,
I think Final Fantasy VIII's lead was called Leon, but I'm looking it up. I believe that was his name. I don't know if he wound up. I also think he may have wound up in Squall Leonhardt. That was his name.
Yeah, just said from the other room. She goes, Squall.
Thanks, Trish.
So, all right, cool. Well, there you have it. And folks, let us know some of the game. The first game that you ever beat. Some of the most memorable games that you've ever beaten, and maybe some of the obscure systems that you've beaten a game on. Who knows? Maybe there's some people out there who've beaten on an Amigo or a 3DO or a Virtual Boy. So
Chris, the love interest name? Renoa was the love interest.
There you go.
Thank you.
And let us know your Final Fantasy facts as well. No. So check it all out. Let us know on the Facebook page, on Instagram, some of your favorite games that you've beaten and some that are on your list. All right, it's approaching quickly, the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo 2019. If you're in the tri-state area, actually, if you're anywhere in the world, fly in for it. Why not? Cradle of Aviation Museum, Garden City, New York, August 10th and 11th. Get your tickets now. You're going to save some money unless you buy them at the door. This thing's getting bigger and bigger, better and better every year. And this time, the Retro Gamers, we will actually have a table there. We're not just going to walk around like a bunch of nomads trying to find Wi-Fi. So definitely check us out. We'll be live streaming. We'll be podcasting. We will have some game systems set up. So if you want to test out some of those games that you bought and realize they don't work, you can go right back to the table and try and get your money back. Good luck. But definitely check them out. Facebook page, Long Island Retro Gaming Expo. We'll have links as well. And we will see you Sunday and Saturday. That's backwards. Saturday and Sunday, August 10th and 11th at the Cradle of Aviation, Long Island Retro Gaming Expo 2019. Don't forget, there'll be tabletop games and pinball tournament as well. Come check it out. All right, so we told you it's going to be jam-packed. This is where we're really going to pack in the jam now. So we're going to talk about some... Sounds sexy, right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to throw up.
So we got a lot of stuff here on tap, and I definitely want to hear some, what you guys think of some of this. Let's start off first. E3 is actually, by the time this episode drops, it's probably the last day of E3, actually. And next week, programming note, we will have our special edition E3 episode where we'll talk about everything brand new. And yep. I think I haven't seen anything yet except for what we're about to talk first. I think this year's going to be a good one. I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff coming out. But first, let's talk about Google, as they were the first ones with their Direct. This is the new thing. Everyone now does a pre-production Direct to us. The Google Stadia has officially been, it was announced 3 months ago, but now we have pricing, dates, some more information on it. If you don't know, the Google Stadia will be a streaming video game service from Google. Basically, you buy a controller, and you may need the Chromecast dongle to use it. First and foremost, guys, what are your thoughts on a streaming video game service? Not the first time we saw this, but we haven't really seen any successful yet.
I'm against it personally.
Okay.
Here's why. And the best example I can give is Activision. Activision lost the rights to all the Marvel games a number of years ago. And then those games, like, basically, you can't, if you didn't have any of the DLC or anything like that, you can't get them anymore. You can't play them anymore. You can't download them. So there's so many times in so many games I've heard of things like that happening to, like, I know, was it Lego Hobbit is another one where they lost the rights to it, and now you can't play those. And to me, there's always something to be said about, hey, I've got my physical copy that I have, and I can always play it. Okay. But that's me.
Yeah, and I'll echo Rich a little bit on that as well. I'm not against streaming games. I think it's perfectly fine. I just think that there are a lot of potential hazards with it. One of them is when you're doing multiplayer online games. Depending on the internet speed of the player, it can affect your online gaming. If you're doing a multiplayer game, I have it happen in a couple of games that I currently play online. So there's that concern, and then the concern that Rich just brought up about the whole idea of, like, when these console developers lose the rights to certain games, they go away, or you can't get access to, like, the extra material and things like that. I feel like it's cost prohibitive that way, because if I'm putting the money down, I want to make sure that I have that for life. That's the purpose of buying something. it's kind of a bit of it's becoming a bit of an illusion when you're buying a game as opposed to now permanently renting a game.
Well, one of the I feel like, and I maybe you guys would know better than me, but I've heard rumors of them actually removing the rights to certain games so that you can't play them anymore.
No, there was, what happened was it games or movies?
Games.
Oh, games. Because I know what happened with movies, but there was a thing. It was a misconception. What happened was there are certain rights in certain countries, and if you try and switch regions, like this happened with iTunes, someone switched their region for movies, and like they lost like half their library, but that was because that library just wasn't available in that country. And when the computer recognized it, they're like, nope, sorry, you can't play these. So that's a different ball game. I know what you're talking about. Like, I have X-Men, the arcade game, on the Xbox 360. I have the Simpsons arcade game on the PS3. You can't rebuy these. They pulled them from the shops. As long as you still have them, though, you can play them. Absolutely. So, you have stuff like that. But then again, at the same time, I have an Xbox 360. For all intents and purposes, if I sold my 360, I wouldn't have any of those digital games anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And a lot of the physical games may or may not work. So that's how, with newest systems. That's how I see it. Now, I'm totally digital. I'm digital with my movies. I'm digital with my video games. I'm digital. I didn't have the room for the physical copies. And B, I like the idea of digital, moving to the cloud, taking it from there. I hear what you guys are talking about. I know it's going to be split. Probably more people want physical than the streaming. But I think Google, I think they have the capability that, the games that are going to be there, I think nowadays people realize, as far as ownership, these are big-time games that Google is messing around with, so I don't think you're really going to see any, rights lost or anything down the road. But let's do this first. Let's get into the Stadia, just real quick with your stats. The Founders Edition. All this comes out in November, this coming November. Founders Edition, $129, which actually isn't bad at all. You get... Wow. Yeah, you get a special edition color controller, the Night Blue Stadia controller. You get a Chromecast Ultra. This is like over $300 normally, and it's only $129. 3 months of Stadia Pro, which I'll talk about in a moment. You get Destiny 2, the collection. So you get the game Destiny 2 and all the DLC. You get to pick your exclusive Stadia name first and foremost, which they're really pushing, which I find funny. A Stadia Buddy Pass, which I think means you can get someone else to piggyback on your system there.
Huh.
So that's for $129. So you will need probably a Chromecast to do this. But down the road, the idea of the Stadia is you start on your television and you can pick it up right where you left off on your phone. That's the idea. They're starting phone-wise, smartphones. Obviously, Google's going to start with their Pixels, and then they'll move forward with other options. As far as streaming, like Anthony mentioned, here's the thing. So there's two services. There's a free service. You buy the system, boom, there's a free online service, which basically means think of it like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live. You can purchase games, so you can still buy games, but like if you pay the service, you get free games every month. You get like special editions or like special perks, special discounts. That's what they do nowadays anyway, so that's nothing new. $10 a month for Stadia Pro, which seems to be the going rate for a lot of these things. Not a problem. Also, when you use Stadia Pro, you could play up to 4K, where free, it's up to 1080p. Depending on your television, that's how that goes. Now, to your point, now here's the thing I find amazing. To get 4K, all you need is 35 megabits per second of download. That's nothing, especially nowadays.
I was going to say, it's nothing.
Yes, that's good.
No, it's nothing in major metropolitan cities. I don't know if it's nothing in more rural areas. And that's where, like, my concern, it's not, I mean, it's not a huge concern, but my concern is that there are going to be people that aren't going to be able to stream because of low internet speed. And remember, we're all like victims of whatever our internet service provider wants to give us.
I mean,
depending on where you live.
The low end is still even 10 megabits per second. So that's still, you're going to be able to play. People are going to be able to play. Look, not everyone has a 4K television, so not everyone's going to need that high of a speed. But no matter what, that's the idea is anyone's going to be able to play. And that's what's good with this. Here, to quote Google, to quote Phil Harrison from Google, instead of a console or a PC, you're using Google's data centers as the platform. We handle the intense gameplay, processing, and graphics, so there's no console required to play your favorite games. In other words, in theory, it's one and done. You buy the system, and that's it. Like, imagine buying a Nintendo, just buying the Nintendo controller, but as time went on, again, in theory, you never had to buy another system. You know, that was all done on the other end. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty cool. I like that part of it. Yes, in 20, 30 years, it's going to kill the resale business, but who knows where we're going to be in 20, 30 years. It's starting to.
I was just going to say, it's dying now.
No, I'm going to disagree with you, in all honesty. I think now I think a lot of people are buying the old stuff with these clone systems that are coming out. We're going to talk about a new one in a little while. Moving forward for the new systems, like Xbox.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Xbox One, stuff like that. But people are still going to be buying NES and Super NES and N64 and all that and PlayStation for years to come. So that that part, I think is safe.
Larry,
yeah.
One question I have, I don't know if you can answer this, or if you're maybe about to answer this. How does the Stadia. How does a Stadia different from like Steam? Because to me, it almost sounds very similar to Steam.
No, it basically is. I can see what you're talking about, except for the fact that like Steam, you can download to a physical media, like you can download to your hard drive, I believe, with Steam. Okay. Where here you are completely running off of the Google computers. So there is no download. That's why they say you can stop a game in like midpoint and then go to a different, like say playing on your television and then you want to play on your smartphone. You just pick up right where you left off, almost like a Nintendo Switch when you take it out of the dock.
Right.
So that's what it is. The idea that it's in the cloud, and then not only that, it's constantly being updated on their end. So say down the road when 8K becomes affordable, they'll just update their systems to 8K on their end, and you don't have to buy like a new Xbox or a new PlayStation for something like that. I think that's where the idea is. Now, we've had systems to do this. The most famous one was OnLive. That was going to be this cloud-only system. That went nowhere. It was out for a little while, but it went nowhere. But Google's got more backing to it, especially with Google Fiber. Once that starts coming out in the major areas, it's like Apple. When you use all Apple products, everything works like a charm. Yeah. When you start using all Google products, because I'm looking forward to Google Fiber, because I think that's going to be a game changer into itself, I think this thing will work out. Look, if someone's got to try something new. And even though there's been systems like this, I still credit Google for trying. Look, trying something new. This is the way things are. Everyone is nowadays always on the run, always moving. And kids nowadays, I think, they're glued to their phones. So I think the world of physical media is just going away anyway as new generations come out. So, look, Xbox came out with a digital-only Xbox One recently. With no drive in it. So I think Stadia, it's going to be good. Of course, I pre-ordered it, so I'll let you know in November when I get the controller and I get everything. I'll let you know what it's about. And real quick, just to talk games, they're already coming out with heavy hitters. Coming out with Grid, which is a wonderful racing game. The Division 2, which I was shocked to see, is going to be on this. Because that's heavy as far as gameplay, and it's all online. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, if I'm reading that correctly. That's going to be heading there. And finally, the Tomb Raider trilogy, the newer trilogy, will be out on Stadia. So they're getting some good games.
Yeah, well, they're gonna need some in order to compete. Bottom line, I mean,
every system does.
They're entering territory that's brand new, so to speak, and they're gonna have to really pack a punch if they want people to jump on board.
Final Fantasy 15 is another one. Think about it like this as well. I feel like also there's almost like a minimalist society or a minimalist mentality that I think some younger people are starting to come up with, where like I don't need a whole bunch of stuff, like tiny houses, and so you ever see stuff like that,
Right.
or like in a dorm room or something like that. This is perfect. Same concept for me. I don't want all those physical DVDs because they take up room. Let's face facts. If all these systems I only had the controllers, I'm fine with that. So again, future thinking down the road. Let's see. Yes, we always have to wait and see how it's going to happen. But I think Google, they're going to be good. But let's see what happens. So,
I mean, I think the one thing for me, I guess, personally speaking, with them to be successful, it always comes down to the exclusives. What exclusives do you have to offer? I mean, like, I bought a GameCube because of Metroid Prime. And that was it. That was literally, actually, no, correction, that and Twin Snakes were the two games that I bought specifically for that system. And then from when eventually it was the Xbox. I remember playing Halo for the first time and just being like, wow, this is amazing. So I mean, like, I think for them to be successful with this, they need to have some type of really good exclusives.
I think the first one they announced, but don't hold me to this, I think the first exclusive is Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
that's awesome.
So there you go. Look at that. Just your reaction. I'm not saying you're going to go out now and buy Stadia, but just your reaction. You know what I mean? So it's going to be there. I got to admit, though, the color schemes on the controllers, you have your white, you have your black, you have that dark blue that's exclusive to the Founders Edition, and then there's a ugly wasabi color.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
I do love me some wasabi.
So that's the Stadia. So more news as it comes along, but at least we have some pricing on that. But so now let's really hit this. We're going to kind of go through it quickly, but I think we got some cool stuff. First of all, let's go back to old stuff. If you have some old systems, check out Hyperkin. They put out a lot of good stuff. They just recently released HDMI wires for your original Genesis systems. Ooh. And we're talking Series 1, 2, and 3. And an HDMI cable, well, same cable for all three systems, for your SNES, your N64, and your GameCube.
Nice.
Wow.
I own these wires for the Wii and for the PS1, PS2. Same wire you can plug into both.
What was the name of it again?
Hyperkin. Hyperkin. Yeah, we'll send you a link afterwards. They're the ones that started putting out a lot of the clone systems originally. Mm-hmm. I love them, and a lot of their NES clone wasn't the best, but they made that up with the Super Nintendo and moving forward. They have a Genesis clone, they have an Atari clone, but their HDMI wires, look, I'm not saying it's going to pump it up to 1080p, but these systems are coming in crystal clear on a brand new television that me and Ann have talked once before, and I think you'll agree. I think maybe the televisions may be getting too new for the old systems, which can happen.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about that.
When I sold my SNES, I sold it on eBay. The guy contacted me. He's like, "What the hell, man? The game doesn't work." He's like, "You told me you tested it and it worked." And I'm like, "It does work." And all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, wait a second. I think I know what it was." We're used to plugging the yellow into the yellow, and you can't plug it in that way to get it to work on the newer systems.
Some televisions just don't. You used to be able to plug it into the green of the component, but that some system TVs just don't do that anymore. Yeah. But I definitely look. They're like $30 each. These wires are well worth it, in my opinion. So definitely, they also have, on a side note, they also sell wireless controllers for the original NES and Super Nintendo.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Which I think is pretty cool. So that's pretty sweet by Hyperkin. The big news, though, which will be this E3, we're going to get more news. The newest clone console from Hyperkin, and the first one, as far as I know, of its kind, is the N64 clone. That will be called the Retron Ultra.
Wow.
Nice.
Yes.
Now, if you know your N64 history, the system was originally called the Ultra 64.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Again, like I said, Hyperkin's put out those multi units, but when it's their standalones, since the Super Nintendo, these things, in my opinion, run amazing, and they're smaller, so they're compact. So I think this N64 clone, it plugs in through HDMI, it runs off of USB, and it's going to take all the controllers. There's 4 ports. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're looking to break out the N64 again, definitely look into the Ultra Retron.
Mm.
So pretty cool on that part. Let's stick with clone systems. Myself and Anthony have pre-ordered the Polymega, which is the first CD-based clone system. It'll play 5 CD-based games all in one drive. Ant Hatchie got his hands on a Polymega recently, and you were quite impressed.
What systems does it play? What systems does it?
So the Polymega, a couple weeks ago, I went and saw a preview of it at Retro Game Camp in downtown LA, which is the retro game store that specializes in Japanese imports. Mm. And they had a representative there from Polymega to show it, just to show it off, and it was absolutely fantastic. The 5 systems are Sony PlayStation 1, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, TurboGrafx CD, and Neo Geo CD. And they also have announced that they will be able to upgrade the firmware in there so that you can play additional systems. Like I think they're working on Dreamcast next.
That'd be cool.
And they're not against going into the PlayStation 2 area as well.
Wow.
Well,
it's a big endeavor on their part, and it's taken them longer than they anticipated. But I will say the end result from what I saw was beyond impressive. Like I really do think this is going to deliver.
It's going to be
how much is it going for?
$250.
That's not bad.
No, 3. It's 3. I think it's $300 for the base unit, which is the CD-based games. And then, Rich, you can actually lift out a portion of the console to stick in a cartridge-based base. So you can buy the NES base, the Super Nintendo base, the Sega Genesis base. So this sucker can play, a ton of systems.
Wow.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the whole kit and caboodle, so I'm getting everything. But what's cool, remember, not only with the CDs, yes, it plays those 5 CD games, systems, but it also plays the PAL versions and the Japanese versions. Mm-hmm. So that already triples that. Not only that, it'll play this, not that there's really a lot of games out there, but it'll also play the Genesis 32X CD games.
Yes.
So that's a few more. So this thing is crazy. Yeah, so you can get different bundles, as Anthony was saying. Ultimately, it'll play the NES, Super NES, Genesis, and TurboGrafx. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this thing is really, really sweet. Definitely go check it out, polymega.com. Yeah. But what I want to mention is Polymega will be putting out a light gun controller. Now, you may think, all right, well, there's light guns out there. The old ones don't work on the new televisions.
Nope.
This one will. And as I'm just real quick, then I want to get your idea on this. The one light gun controller will work with all the systems.
Really?
Nice.
Yep.
Yep. So you can go back to Duck Hunt if you want on the NES, or you can hit up Lethal Enforcers 2 on the Sega CD, or
Virtual Cop.
Yeah, Virtual Cop. Once Dreamcast comes out, House of the Dead. I mean, think about all the shooting games. T2.
Yeah.
There are a ton of shooting games out there that you can't play anymore. But now, if you have a Polymega and you buy the light gun, you have the opportunity to play those.
You know which one I really wanted to go back and replay, because I played the ever-living shit out of this when we were teens. Area 51.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I want to go. I'm looking forward to this because it's a compact gun. It looks very comfortable, very nice. Obviously designed to not look like a real gun for legal purposes. But I want to go back and play some of the Super Nintendo light gun games because I hated the Super Scope.
Oh, yes, the Super Screen.
I hated that thing.
Yeah,
so,
it was good.
So we'll check that out. It's a USB actually controller, so that's why it should work on everything. And
Nice.
it looks like it's going to retail for $100, which sounds about right for a light gun that's going to work on a brand new television. Again, more info at this point has been released at E3, so check that out. All right, let's see what else we got. Well, let's jump to... You know what? Let's talk about this real quick. Speaking of E3, by the time this drops, there should be a new DLC fighter for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yes, I heard about this.
Yep, they're going to be... I don't know who it is, and even if we do, I don't think we want to give out any spoilers. But there's, 4 or 5 DLC ultimately for fighters. So the new one should be revealed this week. That should be good.
How many characters are they up to in there now?
Oh, my God. 60, 70... I gotta say over 70, maybe?
Yeah, there are over 70 characters.
Yeah. They definitely got a lot in there. It's pretty cool. I love the game. The game really... I mean, I was never a fan of Super Smash Brothers, especially the first couple, but I fell for it for the Wii U version, and I just fell in love with this one on the Switch. So that was pretty cool. Speaking of Switch, let's talk about this just real fast. The new lineup for June for the NES Classic. Now, we don't know what the special edition game is going to be, the one where they alter it enough, just to play differently. But the 3 games we're going to get, Volleyball on NES. Yeah, I don't know why. I still don't understand that one. Double Dragon 2, The Revenge.
The better Double Dragon.
Yep. And my favorite game, I think it's a hidden gem, City Connection.
Yes.
Do you remember City? Exactly. That's the one.
I used to rent that game like crazy.
Me too. I never owned it, but I rented it all the time.
Yeah, same here.
I was hanging out with my buddy Jack last week, and he had never played it before.
Oh, really?
Like, man, you are in for a freaking treat on this one. And he's like, what the hell is this game?
None of us know, and it's okay.
And then the Japanese version is going to get these same 3 games, so nothing different there. So that's June. I know we're going through this quickly, but again, we got a lot of stuff here, a lot of quick hits.
Really quickly, since you're talking about free games,
yes.
I off the top of my head, PlayStation 4 for the month of June. If you're a PlayStation Plus member, you're able to download Borderlands 2, I believe, for free, and Sonic Mania.
That's big.
Wow.
Yes.
Sonic Mania is awesome.
Yes, I've already downloaded it.
Good. Oh, yeah, if you don't have... I mean, again, it's worth buying full price, but hey, if you can get it for free, why not? Definitely well worth it.
Yeah, and then also before... I don't know if you have more E3 news or not, but before we switch off of E3...
Not really. No, not yet.
Okay. Before we switch off of E3, to celebrate E3... Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are all having special sales online for their games. Now, as of this recording, Nintendo hasn't come out with theirs yet. They're not announcing what the sales are until Tuesday the 11th, which is when our episode drops. But for Sony, I have to say, and they call it their Days of Play event. So it's, I believe it's a 10-day event. It started on Friday the 7th, and it's going to go until the 17th, I believe. And the deals that they have are phenomenal. I picked up the remake of Shadow of the Colossus, which I never played before.
Oh, game's fantastic.
Never played it, always wanted to. But
God,
available for download on PS4 for $12 right now.
Worth it.
Yeah,
Totally.
I also picked up a couple of VR games, and then there's another one I'm eyeing called Detroit Become Human.
I heard that's good.
Yeah, that one's also, you can buy the Ultimate Edition for $12, and it comes with the company's first game that they made, which was Heavy Rain.
Oh, that one's good.
Yeah, so you can get both of those games for $12.
Dreams?
What?
Quantic Dreams, I think, was the name of the company.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I played the demo for Detroit Become Human. It's fantastic. It's it's really, really good. So that may be another $12 I drop for those 2 games.
And also, and I mentioned it, I posted it on the Facebook page. I think it's well worth to do it now, even if you just re-upped. Why not? You can get a year's worth of PlayStation Plus for $40. It's a savings of $30. Look, why not? It just piggybacks onto your account. So might as well buy it now. I bought it now, and I'm good till 2021. Some people apparently found it for $2 cheaper in Costco, so knock yourself out. But why not?
Good for you. Look, if you can find a great deal, look, we're more than happy to hear about it. I love it. What?
Go ahead.
Oh no, as I was saying, speaking of deals, also right now I saw online that the Sony PlayStation Classic, the failure that it was, is currently available for $29.99, from $100 to $30 in what? 3 months?
6
months. Came out in December, right?
It came out in December. I bought it full price, of course, and then 2 weeks later it dropped in price.
Yep. I canceled my pre-order because I wasn't impressed with what they were doing with it. I was very happy.
Don't understand. There's nothing wrong with it. It looks exactly like the games when you put them in. I don't understand the hate for it.
USB plug and no plug.
For me,
everyone knows a plug already.
What turned me against the PlayStation Classic, because I've been buying all the classic consoles, what turned me against it was the library on the Classic.
That's fine.
Yeah, and I saw the library and I'm like, you know what? I already own the 3 or 4 games on here that I want and played. So I just decided, I was like, you know what? That it's not worth me spending $100. Now for $30, I may pick it up just to add it to the collection.
Yeah. If we were going to buy them on games we don't own, we wouldn't have any of the minis. But I hear what you're talking. Don't get me wrong. I hear what you're talking about. That's fine. I'm talking about the people like, oh, it doesn't look good. I'm like, I got news for you. The original PlayStation doesn't look good compared to today's aspects.
Well, no, PlayStation, unfortunately, PlayStation did not age well.
No.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, and I did pick up the Japanese version of the PlayStation Classic. Cool. So I can't wait to play Devil Dice and Gradius, which is on there. I didn't realize.
Yes, Devil Dice was one of my favorite games on the PlayStation. Very addictive.
Speaking of the minis, let's talk about this one. Hey, Rich, are you getting a Genesis mini?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't jumped on the minis craze.
Fair enough. It's a great lineup, though. It's 42 games, one of which is actually Tetris, which is like probably one of the most hard-to-find games, period. I didn't even know they made Tetris on Genesis.
I saw that.
I heard it can go for like $1 million, like no joke.
Well, that's a little nutty.
It did until September, when anyone can get it on the Genesis Mini.
Well, let's see, Tetris, Genesis.
Hold on. It's a fun little thing. You can only order it in Japan. They're coming out with add-ons for the Genesis Mini, a mini Mega CD drive, a mini 32X, a mini Sonic and Knuckles, and a mini Sonic cartridge.
Oh,
now,
that's really cool.
None of these will play. None of them are going to play games. It's just for fun. It's just for show. I'll post a picture on it. It's basically you just stack them on on top of another because, the running joke of all these add-ons, this Tower of Genesis. Yeah. And that's all it is. I think it was like $20 or something for all this. It's goofy. It's fun. I ordered it. It's on Amazon.
It's fun.
.co.jp, so I had to create like a Japanese account. So that was annoying. But I'll post pictures on it. It's pretty cool, pretty fun to see. With that, kind of moving right along, let's go back to the Switch. Another sleeper that the arcade version is being released. Arcade Archives, Solomon's Key.
Wow,
I love that game.
Now, Solomon's Key is available on the NES Online Classic. It's available on the NES Mini Japanese version. But this is the arcade version. So I'm wondering, Ant, was there a difference between the arcade and, besides graphics, between the arcade and the NES version?
To be honest with you, I do not know.
All right. I mean, it looks prettier. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I've only ever played the NES version,
Me too.
I love the NES version.
Me too. I love it. And for $8, maybe worth it to get the arcade version. So that's coming out this week. And then finally, two final things, one of which I find this very funny. So the Nintendo Direct for Pokemon, Shield and Pokemon Sword was last week. And they announced some new Pokemon, one of which is Wooloo, a sheep. Basically a sheep. I can't wait to battle Pokemon with a sheep. But guess who doesn't want you to use the sheep in Pokemon? Our good friends over at PETA.
Oh, God.
So, PETA, I'm quoting their Twitter handle, love the new Pokemon Wooloo. They have a special message for all of their future trainers. And there's Wooloo holding a sign, I'm not your Wooloo sweater. Because
oh my God.
in the game, I believe you can shear Wooloo to make clothing and whatnot. Well, everyone got on PETA's back. People, not only fans of Pokemon, but like farmers came out saying, no, actually it's good to shear the wool of a sheep because otherwise they can get heat stroke, they can get illness, if their wool isn't clipped on a regular basis, like for real sheep. And oh yeah, by the way, it's a video game.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
So yeah. Well, you know, we live in a day and age where you can complain about anything.
PETA,
you have a platform for people to hear you. So
it's my opinion only.
Voice.
I can't stand PETA, and that's me just being me. They've targeted Super Meat Boy. They've targeted Super Mario, I think, for riding Yoshi and stuff like that. Whatever. I find it very funny that, a lot of people are like, no, it's actually good and healthy to shear sheep. So that's pretty
the same way it's good and healthy to sacrifice Yoshi to get over those.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Finally, I want to talk about this, and we'll wrap this up. We have just come through the 35th anniversary of Tetris.
Yes.
35 years ago, the game came out, and I think about 15 months ago, the creator of the game finally started getting money for it. You know, everyone knows the story. I can never pronounce his name, too. Alexei Pama something or other.
Pomegranate?
It's very Russian. I've never been... Something like that. Siri, stop. Thank you. So... He knows the story. He created Tetris. He lived in Russia, Soviet Union at the time, and the Soviet Union's like, we like this game. We're taking it. And basically the Soviet Union took it, and this guy literally didn't see any money, I think, until like the 2000s.
Yeah.
You know, with the fall of the Soviet Union and rights and everything. But big celebrations. Barcade, every Barcade had a big 35th anniversary Tetris celebration. I know, Anthony, out by you, and I know, unfortunately, circumstances just didn't allow it, and that's okay. But the creator of Tetris was at Barcade LA.
I know, and I'm really bummed I didn't get a chance to see him. Now, the fact that he was only there signing for 1 hour is absurd. It would have been nice to him to at least... Had he had stayed for a few hours, I would have definitely made it. Unfortunately, I could not make the specific hour that he was there. Okay,
let's put the brighter side on it. He was there, and he was signing autographs.
No. We're going to put my side on it. I didn't get to meet him. This is a travesty.
He needs to come back.
Alexei
You know what? He needs
Petinov.
to come to my house, and then we'll play Tetris.
Real quick, do you have any good memories of Tetris? You know, any fond version of your favorite version of Tetris? Either one of you, Rich, you want to go?
So, yeah, me personally, one of my wife and friends of ours, what we love to do is roughly every summer we go down to the Jersey Shore. Okay. And we bring the Super Nintendo with us, and we play Tetris and Dr. Mario.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Nice.
And I will tell you, it gets really cutthroat playing, especially the Tetris game. Gets a little intense. You know, there's nothing funnier than late 30s, early 40 people just really getting intensely into those.
Awesome, I love it. And
yeah. Well, the NES Tetris game is definitely the one I will hold most fondly, and that's because it was essentially the family game. Mm-hmm. We would just my Nintendo was hooked up to the TV in the living room, and we would all take turns playing Tetris. So my mom, my dad, my sister, my younger sister was too young at the time, but the four of us used to always just take turns playing or fight over it, depending on who wanted to play more. So that's why Tetris has always been kind of special to me.
Awesome. Of course, my version of Tetris was the Game Boy version of Tetris that came packed with the Game Boy. It was probably an amazing idea, and sold Game Boys, sold Tetris games. And so I'd play it, and then I kind of fell out of love with it until Tetris 99 came out on the Switch.
Yep.
And then I fell back in love with it. And then I started playing the DS version and all this stuff. So for me, though, the definitive for me is the Game Boy version of Tetris. Mm-hmm. That's the one I remember the most.
Yeah.
So,
fair enough.
35 years, it's a long time for a very simple puzzler that has branched out to so much stuff in recovery from PTSD to people, what's called the Tetris effect, where, they just picture tetraminos falling and they can pack the back of a car on vacation. So,
and speaking of the Tetris effect, also you can play it on VR.
Yes.
Tetris Effect is a VR game.
That's crazy.
Like, you can play regular. I have Tetris Effect. You can play it regularly, and it is gorgeous. And the music is soothing. But yeah, when you play in VR, it's a little it's weird. It's not like you are a Tetris and you're falling, but it's pretty cool. And I finally got to play Tetris on the Virtual Boy, and that was interesting as well. So that was pretty cool. No, like for the first time, like 3 weeks ago or something, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, sure was.
And of course, the one Tetris I've always wanted to play was Bio Tetris. Remember? You ever hear of Bio Tetris? Rich, you look confused. Bio Tetris came out on the N64 in Japan, and you hook up this adapter to your ear, and it would measure your heart rate. So what happens is, as your heart began to race, the pieces fell faster. So you had to learn to control your heart rate to control the speed of the tetraminos.
Mm-hmm. That's absurdly awesome.
Never got to play that one, though. So happy birthday, Tetris. And with that, I think it's time to pull this into port and call it a day on this one. And this was packed. I liked it, though. This was fun.
Yeah.
This was a blast.
I always enjoy coming on, guys.
How's it, Rich?
We're always happy to have you, Rich, especially when Larry doesn't want to show up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the things I thought I wasn't going to be here, so I ended up being here, so of course I'm going to take over. No, Rich, I do appreciate you being on, no matter whether I'm here or not, whether Anthony's here or not. Definitely cool. Continue your gaming, and hopefully you'll be able to beat more games down the road, more Metroids down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, did you play the new one? Do you have the 3DS? Did you play that new one?
Which one? The Metroid 2?
Samus Returns?
Yes.
I don't know, you may have talked it in the past. How's it compared to the original Tetris? Metroid 2.
I will say this. It was okay. Like, there were certain things about it that I thought was interesting, but overall, the control scheme for me was a little too wonky.
Okay.
There was a guy who did, was it Not Another Metroid 2 Remake?
Oh, okay.
And I played that version of it. And I will tell you, he did personally a better version of the game than Nintendo did with this.
Okay, fair enough. And then one final thing, I just want to get your thoughts on this, being such a Metroid fan. The fact, now this happened months ago, but the fact that Nintendo basically said we are completely scrapping Metroid Prime 4, and we are going right back to the beginning. We're starting it from scratch, and we're going back to the original maker of the first Metroid Prime. Any thoughts on that? The fact that they were like 90% done, and like, no, forget it. We're starting from scratch.
I'd rather, at this point, it's when was the last time outside of a remake did they release a Metroid? What was that?
Wii U? No, I think it was still the Wii, probably.
We're not counting Other M.
No, yeah, no, not that one, or the one that Hunters one that was on the 3DS. I think Metroid Prime 3
was the last one.
Yeah. It's been a while.
And it's, don't get me wrong, I love the Primes. I played the crap out of them. But I will tell you, I feel like Metroid works best, and I've had the most fun when it's a 2D game.
Fair enough.
They stayed with them as 2D and just improved graphics, or even had even do something like what the Halo Anniversary did, where you could switch back and forth between like the newer graphics and old 8-bit graphics. I think that would be something fun to play around with.
It's funny, a lot of games do that. Like Tecmo Bowl did that. The R-Type Dimensions DX, or EX it's called, you can switch on the fly between 2D and 3D and whatnot. So, all right, pretty interesting. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that. All right, so that's about it. Anyone have anything big coming up you want to promote? I mean, I know we don't really, I don't know. Throwing it out there.
I got nothing.
Fair enough. Good. I'm going back to sleep. I've been up since 3 o'clock. So, So with that, folks, remember, check us out everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Retro Gamers Podcast. We can try and get our Twitter back up and running. And you want to hit them with the email?
Email at theretrogamers.com.
Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Just let us know that you're there listening. And we want to thank, actually, we finally broke 2 or 3 times the 3,000 mark likes on Facebook.
Yeah, that was funny. We hit 3,000 likes, and I messaged Larry and said, "Holy crap, we're at 3,000 likes!" And then we posted our graphic thanking everybody. And as soon as the graphic went up, we went down to $29.99.
Hey, not everyone's going to stay a fan. Oh well.
Which is also the price of the PlayStation Classic now.
Hey,
See, we're over 3,000 again and again. Thank you very much to everybody who watches, who listens, who participates on our Facebook page or our Instagram page and stuff like that. We're really, really grateful for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Rich, again, thank you for being on the show this week.
Always enjoy it, guys.
Awesome. And I'll catch you guys later. So be well, and we all will catch you right here next week for our special E3 presentation of the Retro Gamers Podcast.